Thank you for joining. I'm Sherry from Sunflowers and Petals. Today, I'm sitting down with two women who have been on my radar ever since their Shimano video came out and blew up my inbox. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button and also subscribe. Joining me are Marley Blonsky and Kailey Kornhauser. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Pleasure to have you. Well, when All Bodies on Bikes debuted, I can't tell you how many people shared the video with me via email, Facebook, text, you name it. Little did they know that I'm part of the media, so I got a sneak peek a week before. But I knew you were going to get a lot of positive attention. Tell me how this partnership came about between you and Shimano and Pearl Izumi.
Go for it, Kailey.
Yeah. So we, Marley and I had been doing this work on body size inclusivity for a while, and a friend of mine from college who makes films reached out and asked if we were interested in doing a film about this topic. And then he went out and sought, sponsorships for the film, and Shimano was the company to get the job done. So we've been working with them ever since.
That's great.
Yeah, and same with Pearl Izumi. So Pearl Izumi is actually a sister brand to Shimano. So for the film, Shimano was able to introduce that relationship, which has continued on for me. I'm an ambassador for them, which is really exciting.
Great. Yeah, I was an ambassador for them a couple of years back. So
Nice.
Great clothing.
Definitely.
In the film, you mentioned the word fat and the need to change it to a positive narrative. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So I'll give my take and then I'll let Kailey give hers because it's personal for all of us. So for me, I use the word fat because it de-weaponizes it. It takes the power away from it as a negative word. And so if I call myself fat, it no longer becomes an insult. It's just a description of who I am and one of my qualities. I learned this from other fat folks who were doing it. At first I bristled at the term fat because when I was a kid, I got called fatty or, whale or just all sorts of negative things. So to me, it's a way to reclaim that and to take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kailey, same thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add. I think it's empowering to use that word to neutrally describe ourselves. So,
Yeah.
We don't necessarily tell other people what to call themselves, and we don't use that word to describe other people without their invitation. But it's been really transformative for me to use that word to describe myself.
Great.
Yeah. And I think one other thing on that is it took me a long time to come to this realization, but just because I don't use the word doesn't mean I'm hiding it from anybody. I walk down the street and people know I'm fat. You see a picture of me and I'm not hiding anything. So by claiming it, I think it helps other folks see a confident woman who's okay with her body the way it is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you also talk about the lack of size inclusion in the bike industry. And, let's be honest, it's true for the entire athletic apparel company industry. I always have larger women ask me, where can they find a size that fits them? And it's not only just large body type or large breasted women. Which brands have you found that have extended sizes, both road, trail, mountain bike?
Yeah, I have had a lot of luck with Machines for Freedom. They go to a 3XL, and I wear their clothes a lot when I'm road cycling or gravel cycling because it's a more traditional kind of fitted kit.
Mm-hmm.
But I also really like the brand Shredley for mountain biking. They have great mountain bike shorts, and they're some of the only ones that I had found that fit me. And their clothes are a little looser fitting. So if that's your preference, I think that is a really good option. I know Marley has other suggestions.
Yeah, so I'm biased, obviously, as a Pearl Izumi ambassador, but we're working actively on expanding their size offerings because right now I admittedly get frustrated sometimes when I'm like, hey, they've got this really cool flannel shirt, but it doesn't come in my size. So I would say Pearl Izumi with an asterisk that more is coming.
Well, that's
I
good.
sound like a salesperson for them. But the other thing is there's a lot of other, so Kailey and I help administer, or we're administrators, I guess, of a Facebook group called All Bodies on Bikes. And similar to your questions that you get, that's probably one of the most discussed things. And so we've actually put together a resource guide that I can send you the link to. And it just has a whole bunch of brands in it.
Great. I'll include it in the blog and also in the post. Great.
Awesome. And it's open source. So if folks have other brands, please add it, because Kailey and I definitely don't know everything.
Great. So do you feel like the bike industry is changing and offering extended sizes now that you've opened up the discussion?
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of really positive change just in the last year, and in the years that we had been working before the film came out too, both in clothing, but also, you know, bikes have weight limits. And so bike companies that make bicycles themselves have started to think about ways to make bikes for people in larger bodies. And so we're seeing it like kind of across the spectrum of gear that you need to ride a bike comfortably and safely, which is really fantastic.
Yeah, I
And
think
then-
brands are, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, finish.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think brands are waking up that, you know, more than 60% of the population wears above a size 14, and that they haven't been serving that market. And I mean, to put it bluntly, there's money to be made from our demographic, and they're realizing that. So you know what? I'm here for it. If it gives people more options for clothing to wear, great.
Now, do you have a discussion with the different brands about like size 14, what the definition, because a size XL or size 14 is different from brand to brand. And usually it's not a true dress size, or if you go into a clothing store.
Yep. That's part of our discussion with them, is just how wildly inconsistent the sizing is. We actually have a slide in one of our presentations to the industry that shows like three vastly, just my sister, a good friend, and then me, and the sizes we wear in like jeans versus bicycle clothing. And like my sister, for example, she wears like a 10 to 12 in jeans, but in cycling, like she put on one of my 3X jackets the other day that doesn't fit me, and it barely fits her. So we don't hold anything back when we talk to the brands.
That's good, because they need to hear it, you know,
Yeah,
and
I
I'm in
think
the
nothing
same
to lose
situation,
at
you
this
know.
point. Yeah.
I have to wear XL or 2XL in some brands.
Yeah. And, you know, for me and Kailey, sorry, I talk a lot, I realize. For me and Kailey, you know, getting a 2X or a 3X is normal and part of our lives. But for other women who have been standard size their whole life, to suddenly have to buy a 2 or a 3X, it can be really off-putting and might impact their purchase decision.
And I think it goes for men too.
For sure.
You know, they're not all the skinny bikers that have 0% body fat, you know.
Totally.
So it goes both ways.
Yep.
So Kailey, you had mentioned about bike setups. So first of all, tell me about your bikes, because everybody loves to talk about their bikes, and I'm sure you have more than one in your stable. And second, you know, touch on some of the different accommodations you have to do for additional weight, like tire size, wheel, seats, those kind of things.
Yeah, maybe I'll start by answering the second part of the question. You know, bike frames have a weight limit. So certain materials that bikes are made out of, like steel, are better for accommodating heavier riders than, let's say, carbon. But that's not where the weight considerations end. You have to also think about, you know, saddle and seat post. You have to think about pedals. Pedals often break under the pressure of a heavier rider. Brakes, you might need to change out more frequently. And then wheels often have the most limiting weight limit, so even more limited than the bike frame itself. So it's just important. We try to do a lot of work to educate people, especially that are just getting into cycling, that they need to be thinking about these weight limits and weight related issues with bikes. It doesn't mean you can't get a bike. There are bikes out there right now that can accommodate a really large group of cyclists, but you definitely need to know so that you don't end up on a bike that you exceed the weight limit of, or brakes that don't work. That is not very fun. So
It's dangerous.
Really, yeah, it's really about being safe, and we try to get the word out to folks about how to get a bike that's going to be safe and comfortable for you.
Tell us about your bikes, Kailey.
Oh yeah, my bikes.
And do they have names? Do you name your bikes?
I'm like embarrassed to admit how many bikes I have. I ride my commuter bike is a Surly Troll, and then the rest of my bikes are all Konas. I have a mountain bike, a Kona Process, and then I have a gravel bike, the Kona Libre, and my new road bike, the Kona Major Jake. And then I also have a tandem bicycle with my husband. It's a Cannondale.
Great.
So lots and lots of bikes, and love them all for different reasons, and they all accommodate my body size. So and I'm over 200 pounds. So for folks that are in that weight range, those are bikes you could consider.
Yeah. One cool thing about Kailey's stable is I think almost all yours, except for the Surly, are carbon.
Yeah, and a lot of people in larger bodies think they can't ride carbon because they exceed the weight limit, but there's been a lot of work to make carbon bikes that go up to, at this point, I think 300 pounds is the highest weight accommodation I've seen a carbon bike go to, but they used to stop in like the 170 range. So we're getting up to a lot more inclusive numbers now.
Well, when in the video, when you guys were bike packing, how much additional weight did you have on the bikes?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Because I don't think you traveled light.
Yeah.
Did we tell the real answer or the movie answer?
Yeah, I mean, I usually, so my Surly doesn't have a weight limit, and that bike sometimes weighs 100 pounds with my gear on it. The setup for my bike packing of the bike in that film, the bike weighs more like 40 pounds, but it is, if you're going to be in bike packing or bike touring, you have to consider the weight that you're adding onto the bike before you ever put your body on. And so that's Marley and I's favorite activity to do with our bikes. So we definitely have to think, we can't just get a bike that just accommodates our body weight. It also has to accommodate, upwards of 40 or 50 pounds of gear at times.
Right.
Yep.
So the real answer is you had a van with you?
Yeah. That time, but lots of times not.
Yeah, most of the time we don't, but on that trip we did have a van with the camera crew, but we didn't really keep anything important in there. Like we carried all our sleeping bags and tents. They just had a cooler, which was phenomenal.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, a perk we don't usually get while bike packing.
Right. So what adventures are you ladies planning next?
The next big one is we're doing a project with Steamboat Gravel to basically take 15 non-traditional cyclists, and we haven't defined that. Basically anybody who feels like they fit that bucket is welcome to apply. And we're going to do basically like a group cohort for Steamboat. So every month we'll have calls with coaches and different people who have done the race and have suggestions, and then working on getting them equipment and sponsorships, but really just kind of leading up that next cohort of folks, and then getting more rides going, I think.
Yeah.
Same with you, Kailey?
Yeah, this will be my first gravel event, so I'm really excited to be doing it with a group. I always am out on my own, just bike packing, so it'll be a whole new experience to be like at a gravel race.
Yeah, I would love to join you. I haven't gotten to the point of racing gravel, but I do a lot of gravel riding here.
Yeah, I mean, the event is called a race, but nobody's going to be keeping track of time. In fact, I did the event last year, and like my whole goal was to spend less time screwing around on the side of the road. And I ended up spending almost an hour at one of the rest stops, just giving out high fives and bacon. And
but you had fun,
Oh yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's a different vibe when you gravel ride.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for anybody who's like, I want to apply, but I'm not a racer, neither are we.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Marley and Kailey, I appreciate your time today, and thank you for doing all you're doing to promote cycling for everybody, and just like we're doing at Sunflowers and Petals. Also for helping change the narrative and connotation of the word fat. I admit I need to change the way I think of that word too. So if someone wants to follow your adventures, can you share your website and social media handles?
Sure. The best place to find out about All Bodies on Bikes is allbodiesonbikes.com. Same on Instagram and Facebook. And then Kailey and I each have our own websites and Instagram and Facebook under marleyblonsky.com, and yours is KaileyKornhauser.com, right? Made it very simple.
It is, and I'll put a link in the video too to all that. So, well, thanks for watching another Sunflowers and Petals video. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button and make sure to subscribe and enjoy the ride.